my name is Gronowska, and I'm with CoinKite. So CoinKite is one of the oldest companies in Bitcoin. We were established in 2011. We focus on Bitcoin hardware, so we're best known for the cold card wallet, but we also do a bunch of iconic products. So things that we make are the Open Dime. This is the cold card wallet, and we also make the block clock, which gained a lot of popularity because Jack Dorsey went before Congress and he was testifying around privacy, and he had the block clock which showed the Bitcoin price in the background. And a whole bunch of people started asking, hey, what is that clock? Is he in Moscow? Because it was sats per dollar. They were like wondering, is he a Moscow spy? And so the clock kind of blew up all over the news. But it's a really cool piece. It's really iconic. But we're just here to make really cool hardware, and it's made in Canada. This is actually kind of like a bearer bond. So the private key is held inside. It's called an Open Dime. And if I were to give it to you, it's like I'm giving you gold. So if I had this funded with Bitcoin, it's if I were to give you one whole Bitcoin, it is yours, and I cannot take it back because that private key is inside. As we move to this digital world, it's like thinking about culture. People wear watches, and I know NFTs are become big, but if you're kind of like in Bitcoin, you don't do the NFTs, but you're like, hey, I can maybe flex, but more so like I can just be part of the Bitcoin culture, and like a lot of more women are getting into it. So I'm like, hey, jewelry's pretty cool. We call it number go up technology. So I saw the number go up as in the price of Bitcoin. So I just started kind of digging into it. But I think it's one of those things where we say we fall down the rabbit hole, and it becomes much more than just an investment because you learn more about it and you find the pieces that resonate with you. So I actually worked for a decade with heavy industry on climate change, low carbon technologies, and energy markets. And now we're seeing all this energy FUD. We call it fear, uncertainty, doubt, and populate the news saying that Bitcoin is killing the planet. But actually, it resonates with me because I know how hard it is to fund low carbon technology projects. There's historically been an underinvestment, but what's really neat about Bitcoin is it's a pure market incentives. It's such an elegant system. So what I am seeing is actually different business models for miners coming in, and they're trying to find that cheap power, but what they're doing is they're helping stabilize the energy system. They're coming in using waste resources, recycling heat, and so I think it really resonates with me because I'm seeing like heat recovery is a low carbon technology that we've been trying to get investment in for a long time, but Bitcoin is providing an incentive. So it's not taxpayer dollars, it's not ratepayer dollars for the electricity system, it's another kind of incentive that is helping build out this resilient energy system. So I think it's kind of like connecting what I used to work on with Bitcoin that makes it really exciting, and it's a force of good. So it's funny because people love the headlines, right? Like Bitcoin is boiling the ocean, but what's actually really happening in the background is very different. And just for example, there's a company that was looking to work with a sea salt company that is actually boiling the ocean to make sea salt, but they're actually going to take the heat to create salt, and it's like, it's ironic, but no, they're actually, instead of using combustion and fossil fuels to do that, it's they're taking that heat, or they're taking so in Vancouver they're working with the city of Vancouver, and they're displacing the fossil heat because usually you burn natural gas to heat a building, but they're actually taking miners which are using hydropower off the grid, and they are reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So these are the stories that yet haven't kind of made their way into the headlines because they're not as exciting as somebody saying, hey, Bitcoin's killing the planet. There's a cool company that I advise called PRTI, and what they're doing is they're taking tires in a landfill. Like there's 1 billion tires that are thrown out annually like all over the globe, and it's a big problem, like landfill. And so what they're doing is they're taking the tires, they're creating energy, they're recycling the steel and the scrap. So it's like in the news we hear, oh, Bitcoin ASICs are filling up landfills, which is incorrect based on kind of studies that assume that they get thrown out after a year, which is not the case. They get thrown out after like 5 or 7 years. But the point is, like, we are reducing landfill waste, but that story is not as exciting as, we're killing the planet. So I think it's just going to take a little bit of time, but those stories will percolate, and you'll see the towns towns that, for example, they used to have an employer that shut down because it was an old kind of legacy traditional industry. It was no longer competitive to work there, and maybe a mining company comes in and they start to create those jobs. So it's usually like the small towns that start to rally around this new community member, and I think that's pretty exciting.
Chizhik with OKCoin, head of listings.
I'm Shimon Lazarov. I'm with OKCoin and OKX, head of growth. Mining is basically a way to verify that the transactions in Bitcoin are authentic. So that's the core of the protocol, to make sure that the same Bitcoin cannot be spent twice, and it uses energy to do so. It's basically like solving random puzzles, you can think about it. But that's what basically prevents people from attacking the network or double spending. I mean, its importance is huge. It's one of those times where I see the media usually exactly 180 degrees wrong about it. Like, people say it's bad for the environment. It's actually very good for the environment, because it's the only way you can have a use for energy that's far from population centers, right? So usually when you transmit energy to the population center, you lose 30%, 40%. And so it makes it not viable to use all these renewables like, water or wind or solar. And so with mining, it actually is viable to build, like, for example, a nuclear power plant, which is like completely clean. And before, it would be very hard to do it. So I'm extremely excited about the mining ecosystem. We're seeing financialization of the mining ecosystem. Lots of miners are public companies now. So I'm very excited about it. And it unlocks basically the potential of energy.
Before business school, I used to work at probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest energy companies in the world, electricity companies called AES. We, at that time, would build generation plants all over the world. And I remember falling in love with green energy and going to school to build renewable and power plants and to propagate renewable energy all around the world. When I came out, I went to the Boston Consulting Group to work in the top consulting company to do renewable energy. And only when I came upon Bitcoin, I found the true solution to green energy. And the frustrating part is that not only is it perverse, argument is perverted, I should say, in the media and with politicians, and it's not green. It's actually the reason why I am in crypto. I'm in crypto to make sure that green energy stays. I'm in crypto to make sure that we care about the environment. As Shimon said, Bitcoin mining is the only way of getting electricity in places that are in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of nowhere, Texas, when you have a wind turbine, a solar panel in a very rural area in Canada, and so on. To export in El Salvador geothermal energy, to export natural resources without having major losses. You have line losses when you carry electricity from the generation plant all the way to a big city. It loses a lot of the energy. That's why it's not profitable now. With Bitcoin, you don't need to carry that to big cities. And so it flips the economics on its head. And the fact that people are out there not only being neutral about this, but negating the fact that Bitcoin is one of the best things to push forward renewable energy is personally very frustrating, because this is what I've based my whole career doing and building. Well, the solution is to keep on building renewable energy plants where other plants haven't been able to be built before. And again, let's take El Salvador, because it's top of everyone's mind. You have a volcano. It's very expensive to build roads to the volcano. It's very expensive to ask businesses to be sitting next to a volcano, because no one wants to go there. It's very expensive to take the energy from the volcano and bring it back to the city. It's very inexpensive to put a Bitcoin miner there to generate Bitcoin. So it's one way of exporting renewable energy, to the world and creating a battery, essentially, right? A financial monetizable battery. The future is that we're going to see areas, especially in cooler places, Iceland, Canada, and so on, which are conducive to computers running at in a cooler temperature. They're going to explode with renewable energy in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. And then I think the point will be moot, because when we see all around the world cheap, good, renewable energy mining, look, Exxon is getting into it, a traditional oil and gas company. The future is essentially here. We're just waiting for it to get to scale. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I want to say is I believe climate change is a huge problem. We have the technology to solve it. Like back in 2012, I was working in Northwestern with one of the top chemistry professors. We have technology to suck CO2 out of the air. The only thing is it's not economical. It costs a lot of money to do it. So humanity should use more energy to solve climate change. That's one of the things that people don't understand. They're like, let's cut back on energy. Anytime humanity has tried to cut back on stuff, it's never worked. Because people want to have kids, people want to go to work. You can't tell them to not do it, right? Especially in the developing world, when we say, oh, China, India, they're polluting so much. They're like, 1 second, you guys industrialized in the 19th century. Now you want us to not industrialize, and they have a fair point. So I think the solution is developing more energy resources and using it to solve climate change. And Bitcoin mining is crucial to that because it creates demand for energy that wouldn't otherwise be there, right? Like as a person, you have a limited use for energy, but then Bitcoin mining expands it.
My name is Margo Paez, and I'm a fellow at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. So the Bitcoin Policy Institute just launched in January of this year, 2022. Our goal is to interact with policymakers, produce op-eds, white papers, all of that from the perspective of an expertise lens on Bitcoin and its effects on the world around it. For me, I work on the intersection of Bitcoin mining and the environment. I'm really an academic. I'm a PhD candidate at Georgia Tech, and I work on issues related to climate change. I do some modeling, and I also come out of the climate movement as an activist. I co-led some protests at the Georgia State Capitol before the pandemic. So my interest really is to understand how Bitcoin fits into the renewable energy transition and also any other secondary benefits, but also concerns that we have about Bitcoin's role, because it is a neutral technology. So you can really use it either for good or you can use it for evil, and it's really whatever we as Bitcoiners make of it. So we should learn how it works and figure out how to put it to good use. So that's all part of what I'm doing with BPI, and I've been interfacing with so many people since I joined. It's been a really wild trip. The importance of crypto mining. Well, first of all, from our perspective at BPI, the most important type of crypto mining is Bitcoin mining and proof of work. Bitcoin's role in the space is really to create an abundance of energy in the world, I think, from the proof of work perspective. Proof of work itself plays a really important role in securing the network. Satoshi Nakamoto, when he invented Bitcoin, he had to solve a really important problem around distributed network. And this was the double spend problem, which is that someone could basically hack the network and get double of what they put in value. So in order to solve that problem, he tied in this concept called proof of work, which secures it using energy and makes it much more difficult for somebody to basically break the blockchain and make changes to it. So it's a really technical problem, but basically it's essential to what Bitcoin is. There's really no other good way to secure a distributed money network like that. The alternative is something like proof of stake. So integrating proof of stake sounds great because you'd use less energy, but the reality is you have a lot more edge cases in terms of problems that crop up. So you have to really account for a lot of possible things that could go wrong, whereas with proof of work, it's just the most elegant solution. And the implications outside of that to the real world is that you now have a monetary system that is directly tied to the environment and tied to the energy that is available on the planet and even beyond as technology progresses. So because of that, we have all of these secondary effects that are happening that make proof of work important. And as I said, these are now starting to play a role in terms of the renewable energy transition. Well, there's a lot of really bad press about Bitcoin mining, and there's a particular central banker who has been publishing a lot of negative publications in some academic journals. His methodology is questionable. He likes to push this energy per transaction metric, which it's not really the best metric for measuring how the energy is used on the network. For some reason, whenever he puts out a publication, all of the major newspapers, media outlets run with it, and they love to run with this, these headlines that, oh, Bitcoin's dirtier than ever, Bitcoin's gonna melt the planet. And there was also another paper that came out in 2018. It was by a group out of the University of Hawaii. It's the famous Mora et al. Paper, which claimed that Bitcoin mining would push global temperatures to 2 degrees Celsius global warming by the end of the decade, which was based on really, really bad methodology. And there were 3 rebuttals in the same publication, which is Nature Climate Change. And they basically all said that you cannot trust the results of this paper. But Mora has yet to retract it. And we recently found out actually that undergraduate students in one of his classes actually wrote the paper. He didn't. So the whole world is basing a lot of this negative response on some paper that some undergrads put together in a class that is based off of really bad methodology that has been discredited in the same journal. And it's just really hard to kill that particular paper because so many organizations or media outlets still use it as if it's credible.
My name is Kristof. I'm the CEO of Threefold, and we're building an internet of internets. We have one internet, which is very centralized. So we're creating an internet where anyone can build their own internet. What does that mean? You can have a community, and you can, with a group of people, can be 1 million, can be a couple of 100,000, build your own internet where everything is independent. Starting from storage and compute and network and metaverse, everything. Bitcoin, it's an amazing thing, but as a money, it didn't really work. It became more like a currency to hold on to, right? To speculate on. And today it's about $100 per transaction you do, energy cost, which is not good for the planet, right? So from that perspective, it's not good. But there are ways how to deal with it. It's actually one of the things we're going to do. On our network, people will be able to hold their Bitcoins, but yet still in the network, there won't be Bitcoin transactions. So you won't have that energy problem. In other words, Bitcoin can stay as it is, as a store of value, and then you build something on top which allows people to work with it, to deal with it, to give it to your friends and so on, without that huge, tremendous cost. So net, it can be resolved. If you look today, right, we live in a world of scarcity. Everything is limited, you can only buy so many things and so on, and that needs to change. So crypto has this potential to work based from abundance. It has a potential. Did it happen already? No. Right now it's kind of a hype. Many of the crypto projects in a way became okay, maybe I shouldn't say it, but a little bit of casinos too, right? People go in trying to get rich quickly, and that's maybe the little dark side of the thing. But the fact that we're going to this place where we can co-own money in a structure which is from us, that is something really fundamentally important. So I look at it like the years 2000. There will be correction, sure, but after that it will be something which will never go away. We need to own money together. It needs to be our money, not money given by some just central authority. And that's a huge promise. Yes, we are not there yet. It still needs to happen, but we've now proven it can be done. So it will be very exciting in the future.
My name is Max Kordek and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lisk. Lisk has essentially 2 products. One is facing towards developers and the other one is targeted at users. The developer side of things is essentially a blockchain SDK, which enables them to easily build a blockchain or a blockchain application in JavaScript. And the other one, the user-facing product, is the Lisk platform, or simply Lisk, where these developers can connect then their blockchain applications to our blockchain. So it's like creating an ecosystem of different blockchains, where then NFTs and different tokens can be transferred from one blockchain to another. I'm not a big fan of mining in general. I think it has a reason to exist only for Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin, in my opinion, should become this global reserve currency. It's like strongest point that no one can attack it, no one can shut it down. And mining or proof of work is the way to go there. I 100% believe it. But for everything else, like Web3 platforms, blockchain applications, DApps, I think it's not a sustainable way to secure them. I'm a big believer there in proof of stake. We also use proof of stake to secure our network and actually buy up solar plants to make ourselves also environmentally sustainable. Just that, well, we all gotta have to take our part in saving the planet, right? But all these energy consumption questions or this criticism, for Bitcoin, I think it's worth it because humanity needs a neutral currency to operate in and transfer value in. That's just required, and that's the cost we have to pay for it.
My name is Joyous and we're with Home Communities.
Stanley Huntsman with Home Evolved Communities.
So we're building a distributed network of sovereign regenerative communities. What we mean by that is fully self-sourcing communities that produce their own food, energy, water, remediate their own waste, and they have a co-op economics model so that each household not only has voting rights in the local DAO, that unique instance of community, but also receives dividends from all the commercial centers. And then we're linking this worldwide network of sovereign communities through a blockchain platform and a native asset-backed cryptocurrency.
Green, clean energy, organic agriculture technology. So these communities are really sovereign. Regenerative communities where we make more green, clean energy than we need, more food than we have, so we can share with the communities. And so then when you're a member, participate along with this ecosystem economy, you're rewarded because we're in an abundance, like nature. You know, nature gives in abundance. That's how we're operating with the laws of nature. So we're very excited about just sharing the abundance, which is our birthright, with Home Evolved Communities.
But how do you build systems that are self-propagating, that are naturally creating abundance for all? Because really what you want is ecosystemic thrivability. How do all members of the community, of any community, all stakeholders, mutually benefit? And so that's, to me, kind of the heart of what blockchain innovation is even about, is how do we bring transparency and how do we bring equality to all people to have access to evolved systems in finance, in governance, in social connectivity platforms. And we just want to take that a step further into the actual integrated living systems that people require to thrive in their daily life.
These communities are worldwide, with land, partnering with landowners and other different communities that are into this ideology of abundance and, again, natural law. So it's a super exciting time as this decaying financial system is on its way out, and as we usher in this new financial technology.
How do we get into blockchain?
Oh my God, since the beginning. Since I've actually known Bitcoin and blockchain from the beginning. Chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, Brock Pierce, I've actually known since before Bitcoin. And we've always just been on the leading edge of what's trending, staying in touch with what's going on culturally, artistically, scientifically, natural, nature of the earth, really. And the earth really is calling for a revamped financial exchange of energy, because what's going on now is obvious.